my wrap up for June. I know at the time I'll be uploading this, it'll be like either in the middle or towards the end of June. I was not able to get it uploaded in time before June ended because I was on vacation, but better late than never, so I hope you guys enjoy the video. Starting off with the first book I read in June, and it is one of my favorite books of all time, Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. My mom currently borrowed it, so I only have the dust jacket. This series is super popular, so I'm sure a lot of you have heard about it, but in case you have not, this book, the first one, is a Beauty and the Beast retelling about a girl named Feyre, and she accidentally kills a wolf, but this wolf is actually a fairy, and in this world, if you kill a fairy, then that basically means your life. You can get killed by it. But the fairies decide to spare her, and instead she gets taken in as prisoner by this fairy who is the High Lord of the Spring Court, and so she lives in his house, and eventually the two start to fall in love. So I have read this book before last year, and I wanted to reread it so that I can be prepared more for when I read the sequel. And let me tell you, I fell in love with this book more than I did the first time. I don't even know if that's possible, but I have no words. This book is just absolutely phenomenal. It's like just completely magical. I love the characters. I love the main character. She's just the ideal main character for me to read about. And I loved Hamlin so much, even though most people don't. I just love him, and I will defend him because he is completely awesome. The romance is so beautiful and just perfect, and I love it. I love this book, and I feel like I could reread it over and over again. I might even make it a goal for me to read this book at least once a year because it is that good, and I'm sure I will just never get over it. And I did already read the sequel, which I'll get to, and I really cannot wait to get to the third book when it comes out, which will be a long while away, but this has easily just become one of my favorite trilogies. It's so good, and I really would highly recommend it to anyone if you have for some reason not read it yet, because you are missing out. Honestly, it is just absolutely just amazing. Next, I read Plague by Michael Grant, and this is the fourth book in the Gone series. I have been mentioning Gone for quite some time now, and how I have not been able to finish this series up, and I've been like trying to push myself to finish this series because I just needed to get it done, and I did get it done this month. I was able to finish off the series finally. It has been years. I think the last time I had finished off a series was when I had read The Hunger Games, and that was like in middle school. I have never finished off a series in so long, so I'm so glad I finally did. And anyway, going on with the synopsis, I will not explain the synopsis to this book, the fourth one, because it'll give a lot away, but I will explain the first book, Gone. So Gone is all about this town where all the adults in it suddenly just disappear, and all that's left is the kids 14 years old and under, and all this crazy stuff starts happening to them. Some of the kids are getting supernatural powers, and food is running out, and so a lot of chaos is going on, and kids are obviously dying, and it's a very suspenseful, very creepy at times series, but it is so good and keeps you on the edge of your seat literally, and I just love it. I love the fourth book. The fourth book I feel like was the most brutal book in all of them, because in this book it doesn't really give much away about the series, but in this one in particular there's a cough going around that literally when you cough, the cough is so powerful that your back snaps back, like you do like a whole bend back when you cough, and then you die and you yak up blood. Like, what? That is so creepy, and it was like whenever I read about it I was just like chills down my spine. And there's also these huge bugs in it that can kill you, and yeah, this book in particular was so creepy, but I at the same time just loved it. And I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. Then I obviously continued on with the series and I got to Fear, which is the 5th book in the Gone series. This one was really good. I think it actually is my favorite out of the whole series. I feel like in this one we got so much character development. I mean, we got character development in all of the books, but this one was just character development overload. This is the book where I really started falling in love with characters that I didn't love before. So I just really enjoy this one. I think the character development in it was obviously just amazing, and I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars too. And next I finally got to A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, which is the sequel to A Court of Thorns and Roses. Obviously, yes, it was amazing. Everyone has been saying how amazing it is, and I completely agree. Even though I actually didn't love it as much as everyone else seems to, I do like A Court of Thorns and Roses better, even though that's an unpopular opinion, but I still enjoyed this book a lot. And let me tell you, this book completely changed my mind about Rhysand. He is so amazing. It's just absolutely incredible. I enjoyed reading about him in the sequel. I still just can't wait to get to the 3rd book, even though it's gonna be like a year away. But I did love A Court of Mist and Fury, and I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. And then I got to finish up the Gone series with Light. This book has had all I had expected would be in it, and I won't say what because that's a spoiler. But I really enjoyed how the series concluded. I think it left off on a really strong note, and it was mostly just like a satisfying ending. There were a lot of open-ended questions that were going on throughout it, but it all got explained and resolved at the end. And the climax of this was just as epic as I had suspected it would be. I just enjoyed this overall, and I'm still so happy that I finally finished off a series. So that is a big accomplishment. Pretty proud of myself, not gonna lie. And I gave this one, of course, a 5 out of 5 stars. And lastly, I finished off June with Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas, which is the 2nd book in the Throne of Glass series. I'm still pretty behind on this series, obviously. I am only now getting to Heir of Fire within a couple weeks, but I still want to give this series a try because I hear nothing but good things about it. So I'm glad I got to read Crown of Midnight this month, and now I can get to Heir of Fire and see how that one goes. For Crown of Midnight in particular, I thought it was actually better than Throne of Glass, which is kind of unpopular for me because usually I love the 1st book in a series, but I don't end up loving the 2nd book. But it is the complete opposite in this case. I thought Crown of Midnight had such good character development. The characters in this book really just like grew, and we got to know a lot more about them. And this book made me fall in love with Kale even more. He is now like my favorite character in the Throne of Glass series. So I really enjoyed this one, and I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Hey guys, it's Maddie, and today I'll be showing you my wrap up for July 2016. In July, I read 4 books, which is pretty good based on how busy I was in July with being on vacation and all of that. I actually read 2 full novels while I was on vacation, which I wasn't expecting to happen, but I realized when you are on vacation, you actually have a lot of downtime with like waiting for your plane and being on a train, and I went to quite a few beaches, so I read at the beach. So I actually ended up reading 2 books on vacation, so that was unexpected, but I'm really glad I accomplished that. And for the rest of the month when I got back, I read about 1 3/4 of a book. I had a book that I had read in June, part of it, and I hadn't finished it yet, so I finished like 50 pages remaining of that book. And then I finished a full novel when I got back. This month was also the booktubeathon, and for the booktubeathon I didn't upload a TBR because I did not have time to upload a TBR for the booktubeathon, which I was really disappointed for. But anyway, I ended up reading only 1 book during that readathon, which I was kind of disappointed about, but Unfortunately, during that readathon, I kind of ended up getting into a reading slump and I did not feel like reading it. And I was also going to see my dad and I didn't want to read like in front of him like 200 pages a day of a book when I was with my family, and I really wanted to spend time with them, so that was a disappointment. At the next booktubeathon, I will try my hardest because the booktubeathon is awesome, but I failed at it this year, unfortunately. So anyway, enough rambling, and let's just get into the books that I read in July. So the first book I read in July is Lady Renegades by Rachel Hawkins, and this is the third and final book in the Rebel Belle series. I am very frustrated because I cannot for the life of me find the cover to this book. I hate losing the covers to my books. I know it is somewhere in my room, but I cannot find it. I'm still looking for it because I hate naked books and it just irks me very, very much. I will be having a review of this book coming out soon. I just haven't gotten to it yet. But anyway, getting into my thoughts on it, my condensed thoughts, I felt this book was okay, but it was honestly kind of disappointing. I do really love the Rebel Belle series. I thought Rebel Belle, the first book, is my favorite. It was so awesome, so funny, so action-packed, and I ended up liking Miss Mayhem, even though a lot of people didn't like it. I really liked it, but Lady Renegades just felt kind of flat for me. I felt like it wasn't as funny as the first two books was, and the plot was kind of uninteresting. And this book contains the plot where the main character and a few girls are going on like a road trip to find someone, and I honestly don't really like road trip type books because I don't know, it feels like there's not enough plot going into it when I read books like that, and so this one was just not that interesting. The ending was wrapped up way too quickly. There was just a lot of things I didn't like about it, but at the same time, there was, even though it wasn't as funny, there were some little bits of funny parts in it, and I have to kind of like it because it is part of the Rebel Belle series, and I really, really like that series despite my feelings towards this book. But I am really sad this series is over. If she continues this series for some reason, I will be happily pick it up, which I feel like it might be a possibility because the ending to this book gave me no closure whatsoever, and that is kind of the most disappointing thing about it. So I'm just like hoping like maybe Rachel Hawkins will come out with a fourth book to this series, but it probably won't happen, but I'll be hoping for it. And so I gave Lady Renegades a 3 out of 5 stars. Next, I have actually my favorite book I read this month. This book caught me by surprise. I did not know it would be this good, but it was, and that is Choker by Elizabeth Wood. I found this book on Book Outlet, and I read the description for it, and I thought it sounded pretty interesting, so I decided to get it, and this was actually my TBR Jar pick for July, so I got to get to it this month. And this book was just absolutely amazing. So good. It is so unpredictable, I feel like, and the ending just caught me by surprise. I did not expect how this ending was going to turn out, and when it happened, I was just like mind blown. And I really could not praise this book enough. I felt like the main character, specifically, I really loved. She had this kind of vulnerable side that you don't really see in a lot of main characters nowadays. When she was getting bullied, because this book does deal with bullying, she would openly just, break down instead of being like one of those characters that pretends that they're strong and inside they're crying. She shows her true feelings, which I absolutely love, and it's kind of a refresher of a character that we just don't really see anymore. So I just really like this main character. Overall, I just really enjoyed this book, especially the ending. It is one of those books that, like, even a week after reading it, I'm still thinking about it in the ending and just how mind blown I was. Like, I can't even wrap my head around it. It is so good. One of the things I recommend if you do want to read this book, though, is do not for the life of you read the synopsis, because I read the synopsis and I feel like the synopsis gave up too much of the book away and it left it very predictable. And so just go into this book not knowing what it's about, and I assure you you'll probably love it like 10 times better. I still loved it, but if I had not read the synopsis, I would have loved it a lot more. The gist of what you need to know about this book is that it is about a girl and her childhood best friend comes back into town, shows up in her room. That's all you need to know. But I promise you, if you do not read the synopsis, go into this book not knowing what it's about, I'm sure you will enjoy it. And I do highly recommend it. And of course, I give it a 5 out of 5 stars. And next, I read The Beginning of Everything by Robin Schneider. This was my TBR jar book pick for the month of June, but I didn't end up finishing it in June, so I read it in July and finished it. And this book is about a boy named Ezra, and he is, I think I remember he's a senior, and something happened in his junior year. He got in a car accident and shattered his leg, and now he uses a cane. And before his accident, he used to be very popular, but all that kind of left him after his accident, and now he's kind of hanging out with the not so popular kids. But amongst his senior year, he meets this girl named Cassidy, and they start this kind of friendship and relationship. This book was good for a contemporary book. It is not my favorite though. I felt like it was a really big carbon copy of books I've already read before. It's like a very typical contemporary book. It kind of reminded me of like a John Green book. So because of that, it wasn't anything special. I felt like the book itself was kind of weirdly paced. It was kind of fast paced in a way, like there'd be one scene and then it would skip to like 2 weeks later. And I didn't really like that aspect of it. I really like the main character Ezra. I always love when we get a contemporary book with a point of view of a male character, because in a lot of books, in contemporary books, we get a lot of female perspectives, but I like how we got a male perspective in this book, and I really ended up enjoying his character. And that is probably the only thing I really liked this book was Ezra, the main character. There were a lot of things that I didn't really love about it, and overall I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. And the last book I read in July is The Winter's Curse by Marie Thnx. I read this for the BookTube-a-thon, but if you saw my August TBR, I mentioned that I only read one book during the BookTube-a-thon, and this was the one book I ended up reading. But anyway, I really love this book. This book is a kind of, don't know what genre to put it in. It's kind of like dystopian fantasy-ish, but it's not really fantasy since it doesn't have like magical elements to it. I would call it like a dystopian, but it is about a girl named Kestrel, and she lives in this world where slaves are a thing, and so she wanders into this slave auction, and for some reason she purchases this slave who is about her age. I think he's like 2 years older than her, and she takes him in and he starts working at her house, and she kind of ends up starting a relationship with him. I really enjoyed this book. I did not expect to enjoy this book as much as I did, because when I heard about it, I heard that it was a very political book since it kind of deals with war and politics, and I am someone who just does not enjoy politics or books about politics whatsoever. I feel like politics are so over my head and I'm never interested in it, so I was kind of iffy going into this book if I would actually enjoy it, because I knew I had heard about from so many people that it is a very political based book, but I ended up actually enjoying it, and I kind of most of all understood what was going on despite it having a lot of politic aspects in it. I also like how there was kind of this other subplot in it that was kind of had a twist. I enjoyed the main character Kestrel because she's the type of character that is not strong physically, but she uses her smarts or her knowledge as her strength. There are times in this book where she is in a physical battle and she just gets beat to a pulp, but she ends up using her knowledge and smarts to win a battle. It is the most amazing thing, and so refreshing too, because in a lot of books there are so many female lead characters, especially in like dystopian books, who are so physically strong, and we don't see a lot of girls who actually use their wits and their smarts to win battles. Like, that is so unheard of. And so I really liked this main character, and her love interest, of course, Aaron. I really enjoyed him too, and I just am very excited to finish this series, I will be getting to The Winter's Crime, the sequel to this book, in August, and I'm really excited to see how it goes. So that concludes my wrap-up for July. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below the books you read in July, and I would love to know. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll be back very soon. Bye!